Welcome to the TokenMarket.net podcast. I am your host, Gavin Knight. Thank you for tuning in. Check out our site for digital asset research, a calendar of upcoming events, and many future upcoming releases. Our podcast features team members of projects in the cryptocurrency space to help shed light on their developments. Just because a project is on our podcast doesn't mean we recommend investment, so always research and engage wisely. We're here with the guys from Silknetwork. They're hosting an ICO, and so I figured I'd ask them a few questions. Can you tell us about the history of the Silk Network and what were the major hurdles and obstacles in development over the years?
Well, yeah, it's been 2 years of work in terms of development on a new code base. Originally there was Silk Coin, but that actually was developed by separate developers who we don't actually know who originally did the work, but they just vanished and presumably dumped all their coin and left the community hanging. So we came along at the request of the community and did a lot of work to basically release a new code base and give the community an opportunity to have not lose their investment, but also continue Silk, the legacy name, into 2016 with a new code base basically. In terms of development hurdles, it's been a long process. It's been 2 years of work, so there's been different kind of hurdles along the way, but they've all been cleared, and we've got past them, which is the most important thing. In the podcast with us is Amir, and he works alongside me on the wallet. There's daily hurdles, as I'm sure he'll contest, or will agree with me with, and so hurdles are cleared quite regularly.
Yeah, I would definitely confirm that. Blockchain coding is very finicky. So one little mistake and consensus is ruined, and everything you start getting banned, and so you really have to understand the classes and how they work and interact with one another. And the code base is pretty large, comparably.
So there's some I know your ICOs for DarkSilk. There's some comparisons to, say, Monero, maybe people would say it, or other anonymous currencies. How is DarkSilk different from what exists already?
It's the fact that we combine all of the anonymous features into one package, whereas, say, Shadow Cash, Dash, or Monero, they all have very good features, but they're all different features. Some do share certain features, such as stealth addresses, but they don't amalgamate all of the services into one wallet. And they are just a wallet. They're not combined with a platform or another coin as well. So it's more to do with not just the privacy functions within the wallet, but what's surrounding the wallet in the sense of the ecosphere and the community behind it as well.
So what other things surround the wallet? Like, you have DNS, I guess. You have a sort of Weaver, which is a web platform. Can you talk about why you think those are important and how that is different than, say, I don't know, other things on the market?
Yeah, with Weaver, it's an enterprise platform. There's no limitation as such with that platform. It's not just an online wallet system or just one type of service that can be provided. It's basically like the best way to think of it is a modular. So we can basically add services as we grow, and what we deem to see fit as a good service to provide to the public that will be actually used and utilized, such as mining services or hosting of Storm nodes, even staking services for users who can't run a wallet 24/7 and don't want to utilize their computer's resources all the time for that. And then it goes on into encrypted messaging, which would actually use the DarkSilk messaging system, which is done on the blockchain. So it would actually be decentralized messaging, but from within a centralized platform. But obviously messages wouldn't be stored on that platform. They would only be stored on the blockchain. So again, that's another nice privacy, or at least a nice privacy and an anonymization kind of feature for users to use. But the growth and the kind of where the direction of Weaver is pretty limitless, and it could go anywhere at all. We were doing some system tests on the database just the other day, and we were looking at individual wallets, and one wallet on the system can actually process 52 million transactions per day, and that's just on the current servers that we're using at the moment. Obviously, they're upgradable. We can increase our CPU and our memory and everything else, and we can get more performance. So yeah, it's quite interesting where we could go.
So what type of testing and review have you done? I think you're launching the network in November, so have you done a lot of security and stability testing on the code?
It's non-stop daily testing. We've got a constant testnet running all the time for both. Well, we did have one running for Silk, obviously, until launch as well. In fact, I believe we still got a testnet up at the moment. We might have just taken it down to put some new code in and restart a new one. But yeah, I mean, in terms of testing, I mean, Amir might want to jump on and get some words in Edgeway and say something.
Yeah. So sometimes we've had two test nets because we were testing two different functionality, and one would change how it hashed. So we had to have two chains. But right now we have we're constantly testing, and our focus is getting a real solid core so that it doesn't overutilize CPU or memory. Because we noticed, with a lot of other wallets, especially some of the older wallets that haven't been worked on for a while, they leak memory, and there's all sorts of problems downloading the chain. And who wants to use that, especially after 5 years? Imagine how long it would take for some of these coins to download the chain. It's just not realistic, really, to use. So with Silk, we tested. I don't know how many chains we started and how many different Genesis blocks we created.
I've lost count of how many chains we created.
Yeah.
A lot of Genesises.
So yeah, I mean, and then there's code review. So GitHub helps a lot, and we protect the master branch, we either Spencer or I have to merge it into the master branch. The other developers can merge into the master branch. So it gives us
everything's pre-tested as well by Travis as well. So everything has to go through a Travis test, and it has to pass on Travis, both daemon and Qt building, before we even consider merging it, and that would happen before we even start to build it and test it ourselves.
Yeah, then there's a whole bunch of unit testing that we gotta keep on. I haven't ran them in a while, but there's points where we need to run them, and so that's the other thing too. And then integrating the unit testing with Travis, which is the CI. So quite a bit of testing, quite a bit of protocol put behind our development efforts.
So there's Silk and there's DarkSilk. Can you explain kind of the difference and why you chose to keep the two things separate?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be two coins in this system because of that. There is a stability mechanism, and it's not in the common sense of like normal pegging mechanisms that have been done in the past, where one coin's just weighed up against another, and once that supply's run out, they've got nothing more to peg against that other coin, and then the coin's price depreciates, or at least it falls to the organic nature of the market, and it will go whichever way the market dictates. Our stabilization mechanism is different. I didn't create the mechanism, so I don't want to explain it, because I probably will explain it incorrectly, and it's better to not explain something incorrectly than to explain it at all. So, but the reason we do have two coins is because of that stability mechanism. So Silk is the asset in that stability mechanism. DarkSilk is the currency. We look at DarkSilk as being the day-to-day used currency by people, obviously because it's got the anonymization functionality in there and the privacy as well. It's also got a memory hard algorithm in there to protect the actual data itself. So it's a very, very strong, secure, private, and very anonymous coin. We're also working to basically make Tor its default native connectivity method instead of trying to automatically go onto IPv4 or IPv6 and then fall back to those as an option too, basically. And I2P, obviously, we do want to get that into the coin. I had it in the code base only 2 months ago, but I wasn't happy with the implementation, so I actually took it out of the code base. So I'd rather not have something that's pardon my French, half-assed, than have it in there at all. I'd rather something be working, not just working, but very functional and very stable and at the top of its game, instead of having something that's half done and half finished and needs work afterwards.
Well, you say Silk is an asset, so is it part of the, I know you kind of have a for-profit entity part of the project, so is Silk sort of something that you would own that is a piece of the Silk overall Silk network, and then DarkSilk is the currency that your network has, or what is the difference between, say, Silk, which doesn't have the anonymization, but you call it an asset, and then DarkSilk is the currency. So I'm just trying to understand kind of like the two pieces.
Of course, yeah. Well, Weaver itself, the system, the platform, that's where the stability mechanism will lie, and will actually do the control, like the actual pegging as such, between the two coins. And it also uses BTC as well as leverage as well. So BTC is the third pillar in the system. And with the mechanism obviously utilizing these coins, it does have to hold a collateral on Weaver of Silk or DarkSilk and BTC. It's essential to the system, otherwise the stability mechanism simply wouldn't work. So those coins have to be there. So yeah, the Silk is looked upon as the asset which is hedged against DarkSilk. But any DarkSilk sales, because obviously we are a for-profit organisation and we do want to sell DarkSilk through Weaver eventually, that profit made is obviously made in BTC. But instead of us just holding BTC like any other company would, or putting it in the bank as such, we'd actually then hedge that back against, I believe, if I get this right, we hedge that against the Silk. So this is where the stability mechanism comes into play, which I don't have my head around fully, because Mark was the genius who sat down and worked it all out. What I do know is the stability mechanism is based on an RC circuit. And in electronics, those circuits don't lose the current. They don't basically have any leakage. So it's a consistent flow going round and round and round. And it's basically based upon that. But yeah, I'd have to get Mark onto maybe another podcast and he could explain the stability mechanism for a good hour with you and exactly how it works.
Spencer, Mark's background is in economics?
Gregory Betts, who's in our team, his background is an economics major from Ohio State. But Mark is, I think his background's more science, more physics, and maybe electronic physics, and maybe that's where he got the idea from. But I'm not 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. I don't. You guys have a big team and can't cover everything, but I think it's good to just cover as much as we can here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team of 8 people, so we all have our part to play. We've all come up with different ideas within the Silk network, and we're open to ideas from the community as well. Even though, like you say, we're a limited for-profit company, we're not. It's there to be molded and shaped and directed into, by the community and by the votes using the storm nodes on the DarkSilk network. It's not there for us to dictate which direction it goes.
That was my next question is, how do you do consensus? And I know it's some type of kind of delegated proof of stake, but you call them storm nodes. So what is a storm node? Is it profitable? And kind of, how is that different? Is it a master node sort of like Dash but called storm node, or is there some kind of different functionality you guys are using there to change the way consensus is done?
Okay, I mean, it's a rebranding, yes. It is simply a master node in that sense that's where the code has originated from. We've changed the name from master node to storm node to simply fit into the whole Silk, the Silk network, the Silk, the DarkSilk, the desert theme, and that's where Sandstorm and the storm node has come from as well. So we wanted to keep the kind of theme going. It wasn't any disrespect to Evan or to the name. Not that we didn't like the name master node. It's absolutely fine. It's just that it didn't fit in with the theming of the brand as such. But that's just on a superficial level. on a code base, I don't know if you're aware, but your listeners might not be, but a storm node basically runs quorums on the network, which are basically tasks that can be run, instead of having to get the entire network to run a task, you just get the storm nodes to run the task. And one of a task, for example, that probably most of your listeners are aware of, if they know of Dash, is Instant X, and that's carried out on the network by the storm nodes, and they pre-sign an Instant X transaction. So it's a really good way to take the workload off of the network and have a second tier of security. So you've got a second layer of authentication going on the network, apart from just the standard authentication on the first tier between the normal wallets. Is there anything you wanted to add at all, Mir, to the storm nodes? Because you've worked on them as well a fair bit.
It also includes, budget voting and a lot of the stuff is, master nodes and Dash, but we also are embedding a market in a decentralized market in DarkSilk. Is it roadmapped, or are we going to on release?
It will be roadmapped. We put a roadmap out at release. We don't like to put roadmaps out until we've actually finished doing our coding up until release, because it might be in there.
It depends on testing and all that. But so storm nodes are going to be used, to potentially regulate the market. So what categories, they could vote on what categories are acceptable and what keywords when we're verifying blocks and they're putting in their listings. We can block certain listings by words, in different languages that the storm nodes would vote on, that they don't want that sold on their blockchain. So there's a lot you can, it's basically a decentralized, autonomous organization that Dash put together with their masternodes on top of, the Bitcoin core. So we're utilizing that, and we want to extend it even more. In our environment, not our decentralized DNS and our decentralized marketplace, and there's also other potential uses that we can use it in for healthcare purposes.
So I guess we might have covered this, but me running a storm node, right? Like I assume it just requires a small amount of CPU power. Do I need to stake? And like, what's kind of the profit incentive there? How do you keep people to run these nodes? And
So what's the incentivization of it? Well, basically, you'd have 1,000 DarkSilk. It's the same cost as Dash is, in the sense of the amount of coin. Obviously, Satoshi value will vary upon the markets, but it's 1,000 DarkSilk. And you lock that to your wallet on your what is called your account address 0, which is the 0 address of the wallet. And then you effectively tell the wallet to, in simplest terms, to start to lock that amount and start as a storm node. Now, all the time that amount of DarkSilk is locked to that wallet, it will run as a storm node, which will allow you to vote on the network. It will then process Instant X transactions on the network, and also any sandstorm mixing that needs to be handled of denominations. Now, because you're supporting the network and you're processing these transactions and you're enabling budgeting and voting on the network, which is enabling the DAO, you should be rewarded. And very much the same as the Dash network, you get masternode or storm node rewards. What is different to the Dash network, however, and I don't understand why this is, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I just don't understand why this happens. When the proof of work miners get a block of Dash, quite like a Dash reward of whatever it is for their block, I don't know what it is at the moment, the storm node reward gets minused from the proof of work miner's reward and goes to the storm node owner. Whereas in our code, the proof of work miner, we've changed the code so that the proof of work miner gets their full reward of 1 DarkSilk per block, and the storm node owner gets their full reward of 0.382 DarkSilk. So the storm node network's rewards aren't detrimental to the proof of work miner, which I really don't understand why that happens in Dash, but it doesn't happen in DarkSilk, which is nice for storm node owners. And it's obviously, well, it makes no difference to storm node owners, but it's nice for the proof of work miner.
And so looks like you're launching in November. Are you guys still finishing up some things, or do you think kind of like the chain's going to be ready in November? So uh, whoever has investment will get their coins in
Oh yeah,
early November.
100%. I mean, the ICO we're thinking of actually rolling the ICO through until the day of launch of DarkSilk. There's no reason not to. There's no bonus on the last week anyway, and there's no reason to stop potential investors from missing out. You know, they might miss out if we stop it just a week before the actual release. But what we're targeting to do is try and get the coins out to people on the day of release, maybe up until about the 6th, depending on how many payouts we have to do. Because it is manually done, we do everything safely, so there isn't any automatic scripts that are going to, kind of affect, possibly tart things up and double pay someone or make a stupid error like that. So if we do it all by hand and by eye, it might take longer, but it's done accurately and it's done correctly. But yes, everyone will get their payouts. Unlike other ICOs, we've done 2 years worth of work. We've worked and tested on all the all the software's been tested and worked on. All the features are in. Our roadmap won't be a roadmap of, what needs to be done to the code base to get it working. It will be, what do we need to do to the code base to add new functionality that hasn't been seen before. Where can we take this now, and not stuck fixing problems that the other coins will launch with. And also, it's not vaporware. Obviously, there's a lot of ICOs out there that do ICOs for funds and they never deliver anything whatsoever. So yeah, we're neither of those things.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, like I was talking to you before the call, and there was an ICO that I invested in, and it could have gone either way. Could have gone up or down. It thankfully went up, but it was really nice because I invested and relatively quickly. It doesn't have to be the same day, but when the ICO wrapped up, I had my coins. I had my private keys. I own them, and I've seen Augur. I've seen a lot of projects. It's great. I get it that they need the money to develop, but I always prefer to just have the coins, and
Yeah.
so one example really quickly is AntShares had a pre-ICO that I didn't know about because it was Chinese, but then they had a recent ICO, and hopefully they are on schedule. So I like the fact that they had a code base, they had a team, they had things together, and I wasn't just sort of throwing money at the problem, but I'm actually getting what I'm paying for, I suppose, within a reasonable time frame, which is what one would expect, I suppose.
Well, that's what we believe. We believe that if you do an ICO, at the end of the ICO, when it comes to delivering to your customer base, it should be a finalized and finished product that can be used, listed, the functions you listed in the ICO, what people are going to get, they should be able to use those. And if they can't, then I'm not going to use the word scam, but it's an absolute con. That's what it really is. It's not a scam, it's a con. They might even believe the con themselves, the developers. They may actually believe they might get this done in time, but they haven't, and that's the issue.
Yeah, I like to I like to say it's kind of a preference as an investor. You're going to choose, and let's just talk specifically about this company. You're investing in technology. You're investing in a code base that is there. You can try Weaver. You can launch the Silk wallet and see that there's working stuff. And for some people, that's they like that. I like that. I like to invest in this type of thing where I have a good GitHub code base, but some people like to invest in sort of very speculative in the future, and I don't know. I don't know that if it's a con or not. If you believe in it and that's what you want to do, that's up to you. It's your money. But I do think investments in technology and ideally getting your coins quickly is much more comfortable. Right? We'll just say that. So that's kind of what you guys are offering. And sorry about the tangent, but I think that's cool. And I did try the Silk wallet. I did try Weaver. I'll say everything works. I didn't spend enough time, but that's more than you could say about most projects. So everything does work. I think the money's going to good use, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about next, though, because it's a little confusing. Is how does your you have a balance sheet, you have profit. So how does your for-profit entity make money? We might have covered that, but how does it make money, and how do you determine the expenses? Is it fees that make money? Is it
No,
development?
there's no money in fees. I mean, I speak to exchange owners, and I've even said the same thing. Oh, you must make money in fees, and they laugh and they say, no, we don't. I mean, and they've shown me figures, and it's not as much as what people think. Okay, exchanges and people like this and services online. I think you'll find they make most of their money in the deals they do, getting coins added to exchanges or doing services such as ICOs being held on exchanges. I think that's where their money is predominantly made. Fees are obviously they're a factor, but it's negligible. What I think we'll find our profit to be made in is via the stabilization mechanism. I also think we'll find it via member accounts for people who be mining and using large rigs who want instantaneous payouts, so they'll pay for the higher accounts to have all the extra features, which allows them to use more resources of our server. And storm node hosting will be another way to make money. But we do want to obviously venture into business as well, doing work, business to business deals off the blockchain as a limited company. And we obviously want to do work that uses applications built on our blockchains. And they could obviously they don't have to be branded Silknetwork, they don't have to be branded Silk or DarkSilk. I mean, Amir might want to talk about maybe a project or an idea that he has that's coming up for either the Silk or the DarkSilk, or possibly both of the networks.
Yeah, so we're going to use the Silk networks, in particular the DVNS, to enable patient identity services. We're currently entering into a contest, $1 million contest for Chime, which is a consortium that healthcare software consortium, and the challenge is to find a solution that is scalable, that could match patients across different healthcare systems. So we came up with a way that uses healthcare standards and a blockchain. Mainly the blockchain is used for trust relationships. So the DDNS is very important to match that your registry with your ClearNet domain name, and then different nodes would have different functions on the network. There'd be nodes that would match hashes that would really match patients across different healthcare organizations. So our proposal won the initial round, and so we're working on the final round and that proposal. So nice. I'm going to utilize the Silk network chain for, at least initially, for our audits and trust relationships. No healthcare data, of course, none on the board.
No.
Well, yeah, I think I got to be honest. A lot of people hear Silk, they think Silk Road or that, but it's completely different project. It is. I think it comes from. I'm guessing your name kind of comes from the openness and free market ideas of the Silk Road, but you're actually, as you said, thinking about practical use cases in the world, like healthcare and things like that. So it's not a it's as one person said, it's not the darknet coin or something. It's just Silk is the Silk network, and there's a lot of developments there that are happening, and it's not just specifically aimed towards this anonymity sector. So I think that's important. It's kind of like a brand overlap, right?
Yeah, I mean it's aimed at privacy and anonymity. More so in DarkSilk with the anonymity factor, but the privacy factor is definitely a strong player and a part of Silk. Otherwise, we wouldn't even consider to store healthcare data on there. That wouldn't even be an option. So Yeah, and also I would like to add to what Amir said about the healthcare sector. I mean, it's not the case that we'll just make this service and it might get used. Amir already works in this sector. He's a director in this sector. It's not just a little project in the garage being done. He's entering just entered the $1 million competition to, just for a bit of fun. This software will be utilized if it's the winner in the competition. That's simply the way it is. They are looking for a solution. If it wins the competition, that is the solution.
Yeah, and we'll start off locally in New Orleans. I definitely have relationships with local hospitals and clinics here. And then, if we can demonstrate that it works here, then, it could go off, basically entire U.S. and then global. I can't really talk too much about the specifics because it is a contest and there are other contestants. So
but it is decentralized. It does use blockchain. It will be storing healthcare records, patient ID records, but not healthcare information as such per patient. Like Amir says, we can't go into, and he can't go into any more detail than that, especially when it's a $1 million competition and there's a lot more than $1 million at stake, really, as you can probably appreciate.
Well, yeah, it's just I guess I'm just trying to breach the. I know when we were talking earlier, you mentioned sometimes people say, oh, Silk must be Silk Road, but yeah, there's applications that could exist in the real world, and let's just say we don't have any news yet, but you're considering these options, and there's potential legitimate quote unquote use cases. So that just try to, I think that makes it more clear that the project is about providing some solutions for different things, not just this what you might call lumping into this branding. So anyways, so I know you might say there's no limitations, but what are the limitations of your platform? Like, what can this? It's good to get an idea of what it can do, but what can it not do? Not in a bad sense, but what are you not trying to do with this?
What are we not trying to? That's a good way of putting it.
What are you not doing? I can eliminate those things.
People to think it's an exchange. A lot of people think, oh, Weaver, it's just an exchange. It's not just an exchange. And then they say, oh, it's kind of like Shapeshift. And it's like, well, yeah, you're getting a little bit warmer. So basically, because we only handle Bitcoin, Silk, and DarkSilk on the platform, we offer swaps between the three coins and enable the ability to pay an invoice for any three of those coins with any three of those coins as well. We basically want to make Weaver a one-stop shop, but we don't want to make it an exchange. Maybe long term we might hold an exchange platform, but obviously that takes time. You'd have to build trust with the community and obviously everyone else in the cryptographic scene. And there are a lot of exchanges already out there that are trusted and they see a lot of volume. So it's not something we're actively kind of trying to jump into. What we're really about is just giving users services that they can actually utilize that actually use the Silk and the DarkSilk blockchain. What we're not trying to do is to start having Dash on there or Monero on there or loads of other coins on there and using it like this swaps platform, it's basically not trying to be anything like that. We want to make life easy for the user so they can vote from that platform onto the blockchain using their Storm nodes that we're hosting for them through a nice UI instead of having to use an RPC console on a wallet. Just nice things like that, just giving people a nice easy way to use the functions of the wallet but through an online platform.
Right. So and this is an issue some coins have. They launch and Monero doesn't have a GUI wallet yet. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Right? They're still working on it, and I understand their position, but
99% of people can't even use the Ethereum wallet because it's just a bloody nightmare. And even most developers, Amir is one of the best developers I know. He's got Ethereum, and he's like, this bloody Ethereum wallet. If only I could work out to use this thing. It's such a it's a nightmare.
Well, it's Windows, the Linux now.
We have an interesting bar in crypto, right? Like our standards bar, right? And I'd say building things so people can actually use it, making it easy is good, but but just, you know, obviously a wallet interface and this Weaver interface, so people will be able to like use this coin um, in an open and accessible way. So that's better than a lot of platforms, even most of the development platforms, Lisk Waves. Um, it's more about, hey, are you a developer that writes smart contracts that wants to build the UI and do all of those things? That's
Yeah.
great, join. So I see the benefit in that. Like you guys are taking the time to try to build out some offerings so that people can actually like use the thing, right?
Yes,
which is
exactly.
which is kind of important, right? Like,
Yeah. So
right?
if you want your currency to be used day to
Yeah.
day, then definitely, yeah. But then we're not trying to push developers out either. We're going to have a developers portal at Kawari.io, and that will be, it won't be, it'll be branded with a tiny little thing like a Silknetwork little logo in the corner, but it's going to be pointed towards developers and businesses to build apps on the blockchain. But it's not going to be overly branded Silknetwork. It will be called Kawari, which is a little desert rat. So again, we're keeping in the desert theme, but you have to, it keeps it more, a little bit more approachable and less threatening to people like you say who see the word silk and they just go drugs, darknet market, can't go near that. So we are aware of that. We're not stupid. We
Well,
know that people do see that, and
it's not the biggest problem, right? It's just
no, I don't see it as a problem. I don't
I'm
see it
just
as a problem.
trying to I mean, you know, people that are interested and are going to get involved, and obviously there's all kinds of projects that have weird names, and you could call Google a weird name, but you know,
True.
if you deliver products and people start to like it, that's what's important. So I guess we'll get to this part then. Can you tell us about the ICO? I know you guys are trying to reach kind of a goal for running the development, and that's the main portion of the funds. But
Yeah.
what are the ICO terms? How many coins am I getting? And yeah, let's just discuss that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the ICO itself, I mean, obviously we've worked for 2 years. I hate ICOs. I hate IPO, all that. I absolutely hate it. Even when we spoke about it before doing the ICO, I wasn't up for it really. But at the same time, we've worked for 2 years, put a lot of effort into this project. Not only do we need a bit of money to be paid for some of the time we've been working already, but we want to work for another 2 years and we want to continue the development. So we are holding an ICO. It is for DarkSilk, for the launch of DarkSilk on the 5th of November. Um, and we do accept Silk. We accept Bitcoin as well. We accept our own currency, which I don't think a lot of ICOs tend to do either. I think a lot of them just seem to want Bitcoin on their own. Am I right? But 4 weeks, 4 tiers. We're into our second week at the moment. There's 15% bonus on the first week, which has passed now, unfortunately, but we're in a 10% bonus. There's 5% next week, and then the last week there isn't any bonus at all. However, if you do use Bitcoin, we give you those bonuses. If you use Silk, you don't get the bonus.
So what is like sorry to cut you off, but what is
No, that's okay.
the max coin supply that you're issuing? You know, how is there a percentage that you're keeping? What's the details on the coin numbers?
Let me just pull all the information up for you. Because to be
I,
honest, even though I'm the CTO, I didn't draw up the ICO. I said I didn't actually want, like I said at the start, I didn't really want anything to do with the ICO. I just want it drawn up. I want it to be fair. And yeah, just want it to be fair and just make sure it's all above board and make sure it's secure as well. Right, so this is how it works. So to fund the further development and innovation by the Silknetwork team, there'll be a 4-week-long crowdfunding campaign held on Weaver, which is our platform. And we're doing this to build trust. So out of the total 4 million DarkSilk initial fund, there'll be a potential 1.528 million, so 1,528,000 DarkSilk available for sale, and the price will not be set. It's going to be fixed. Okay, it's not going to be set or fixed. So instead, what's going to happen? The week with the most demand is going to set the price. So volatility is going to set the price for the whole of the ICO. And then after the 4 weeks, when the price is established and for the amount of BTC that has been raised by an investor, DarkSilk will be issued through the Weaver. Like I say, we'll do that on the 5th or the 6th of November. There'll be a minimum and a maximum allowable price. So it's going to be 25 cents at the minimum, up to a $2.50 capped maximum. Okay. Now, we set those upper and lower limits to protect both the project against low demand and investors against high demand, to take the following two extreme scenarios into consideration, okay? And that's insufficient demand. So the price is set at 25 cents, and a lot of DarkSilk will remain as collateral on Weaver. This protects the project in case market value is negatively disproportionate to our estimated value. And the other consideration to take in is excess demand. Okay, so that's where the price is going to be set at $2.50, and DarkSilk will be sold out within a week. And then for that to happen, then we'd have to raise, we'd raise in the ICO $3.5 million, but that's not going to happen. We're into week 2 now. We've raised something like just 51 Bitcoin. It's a lot of money. It's still £25,000, something like $30,000, or it's a lot of money. But in the ICO, yeah, like I said before, we do want to reward any early contributors. So there is the bonus in each of those weeks. We're in week 2 with a 10% bonus if you invest with Bitcoin. However, with Silk, it's a 25-to-1 conversion. So the Silk works out to about, we're letting people invest at a 1 cent cost, whereas actually on the market at the moment, Silk's only worth 0.007 cents. So we're letting people buy in at a better rate, basically.
All right, so if you wanted to, you could buy Silk on the market and then invest
Arbitrage.
with Silk.
Yeah,
arbitrage.
Yeah,
There's some. I won't name names, but there are some ICOs now that are having some similar splits, right? So there's arbitrage on the market and stuff. Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the ICO, the project? Maybe something I missed at the questions, and philosophy, how you guys started, anything like that?
How did I start? I mean, my background is, well, I've always been involved in IT, but I've never been financially sound. I'm not one of these middle-class rich kids who's got a silver spoon in his mouth, and I never successfully made it through any education fully. So I've always been at the bottom rung of the financial ladder as such. So banks have never been my friend, corporations have never been my friend. But when I discovered crypto in 2011 or whenever it was, just after 2010 or really early, it opened my eyes. I think even like our discussion we had before the podcast, we were talking about how cryptographic currencies have given people, especially Bitcoin, the chance from having nothing and then go into having millions overnight because they just happen to have a graphics card or a CPU at the time. So there is that opportunity in crypto to actually make a name for yourself, do good work, be rewarded, and do really good projects which are groundbreaking, because it is a new industry, and it's it is still at the birth of everything. It's a brand new marketplace. So it is, it's a really exciting time. I believe that the team that I've got together as well, the 8 of us, they're all handpicked. I've gone through other teams and looked at people, and they're all public, and they all have very good experience. It's a real shame that Ahmad can't be on the podcast. He's just 12 years old, bit of a child prodigy. And Amir is absolutely amazing. I mean, he's been coding now for 20 plus years. Greg as well, he's come out of Ohio State. He's a really good coder, and he's bringing quantum mechanics and quantum algorithms and encryption to the table. So that's another level to look at, maybe in another podcast. But there's a lot of exciting things in our project. We're not this niche, narrow-minded, singular entity that's trying to solve one problem in society, or with one one kind of service to people and trying to decentralize that. We're trying to make a platform and a network where we can actually start to look to decentralize everything and do it underneath the same banner. So it's a huge project, and it can go in absolutely any direction.
And one thing I want to add too is that we've been focusing on multi-sig, and we've embedded that in the wallet, and we're trying to make it really user friendly, because we're as far as protecting your assets, it's a great way to protect your assets, so that you're not limited to one key, that you can protect your assets with multiple keys. And so you'll see that embedded in the wallet, and we even broadcast pub keys on the DNS chain so that it's easier to create a multi-sig wallet between multiple people. We want to make it even easier than that. But one of the reasons why I mentioned it too, because it's really important for our identity chain, our patient identity chain, to be able to lock down some root nodes with multiple signatures, so that you need at least 3 signatures to change the root node, and then everything inherits up to that. And you can even have multi-sig addresses within a multi-sig address. I know it starts getting complicated, but you start seeing the power in it once you start to get to those levels, as far as protecting assets and protecting trust relationships as well. And
yeah, because the keys can just tree out, can't they, Amir? So you can just sign the multi-sig address with a multi-sig key, and obviously you could use a multi-sig key on that multi-sig, and it can just go on endlessly.
Yeah, you basically can create a Active Directory type structure based on a blockchain. So you can implement security, corporate security using this, and there's a lot you can do with it, and it's really fascinating being able to work with that code and
yeah. I think we're also the only coin with a multi-sig UI in the actual wallet. I think there isn't any other coin that has the UI. Not working anyway.
Right. Yeah. I don't. They're trying to add it to, I think, Bitcoin Core and
they've got all the RPC calls for it. Yeah.
You can do it with Electrum. One really nice one is this is tangent,
Copay.
but Copay. Although
we use
I don't.
It for our ICO. We've got a 4 to 6 signature on our ICO wallet, and we use Copay.
Yeah.
And then we have 6 ledger wallets that are the keys. So 6 of us all have a ledger wallet each, and we use the ledger wallet to sign any transaction from the ICO wallet, which is a Copay wallet.
Right. So, yeah, I think Copay is really great. It's good to hear that you guys are using security.
Oh, yeah.
So, so thanks a lot for joining. So
it's been a pleasure.
You want to plug the site?
Well, there's HTTPS. We are obviously on a secure site, and it's silknetwork.org. If you stick silk dot in front of that, or DarkSilk dot, then you'll get to the respective sites for the 2 wallets. And if you put a /login after silknetwork.org, you will get to the Weaver. Weaver will eventually be on its own subdomain at weaver.silknetwork.org.
Cool. Yeah, and it's an opportunity where there's not a lot of funds put in yet. So if somebody takes interest, even if you make a small investment, I think you'll get a pretty good. Sounds like you get a pretty good stack of coins. And
yeah.
So
I would like to say as well, and I'd like to add, even though we have seen a low investment into the ICO, I think we've seen a genuine investment into the ICO. We haven't seen an influx of people just following other people, who are investing into an ICO. These people are obviously reading the information, the brochure. They're looking at all the information that we've given, our balance sheet, our projection, what we're looking to do, and they're making a sound decision, which I actually like. I'm not in this to make millions of dollars to do this project, even though that would be lovely and that would give us years and years and years of development time. But even if we walk away with 100 Bitcoin at the end of the ICO, I will be very happy knowing that I have sound investors who are probably more likely to hold coin than to just sell within a week of making a profit.
Right. Well, you guys are committed. You've been working on this a long time, but anything helps. And since it's a low amount at the moment, it is. If you find synergy with the project, if you like what they're doing, check out the site. The announcement thread is great. Then a small investment might go a long way. And if you don't, hey. But I think it's definitely interesting how long you guys have been working and how much time you put in, and the fact that everything I've seen works. So haven't invested yet personally. I like to share that. But after the podcast and talking to you and everything, I'm probably going to take a small amount, because it's a very small round. So wish you guys the best,